Welcome to Yes You Can DIY Digital Marketing by TTG. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this very simple logo reveal animation in Adobe After Effects. Now this tutorial does require you to have some knowledge of After Effects and how it works, so just keep that in mind while you're watching. So to get started, I'm just going to create a new composition in After Effects. So I'm going to give the composition a name, and I'm going to set the dimensions. You can do this in whichever dimensions you'd like. I'm just going to do 1080 by 1080, which is the size of a social media post. I'm also going to set the timeline to be 10 seconds in length, which should give us plenty of time to work with for animating the logo. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to add a background color to this by going to Layer at the very top, New, and then Solid. I already have my color pre-selected, so I'm going to be using this dark blue, and I'm going to click OK, and that will overlay the background on top of the composition background color, which was white. From here, you're just going to want to drag whichever logo that you're using into your project files on the left-hand side of After Effects. So I'm just going to drag the Technology Therapy Group logo into my files, and then from there, I'm going to drag it directly into my timeline. It is a little bit big when you first drag it in. It just depends on the size of your logo. So I'm going to downsize it a little bit to about 75%, and that looks pretty good to me. You'll notice that the preview video does look a little bit blurry. This is because I have it to set to preview the video at half quality instead of full, just so that my computer doesn't work too hard and start to overheat. I generally work in half or third quality, but it's really up to you and depends on what kind of computer you're using and the power that it has. So the very first thing you're going to want to do in the timeline is select the logo and turn it into a 3D object. So just find the little cube icon and select the checkbox beneath it for the logo layer. This will allow us to actually rotate the object on its x-axis and y-axis instead of just the z-axis. So as you can see, I can mess with that here just by dragging the x rotation, y rotation, and z rotation, which is the rotation that you're able to do, the only rotation that you're able to do if you don't make this a 3D object. So to get started, I'm actually going to select the y rotation and create a keyframe. And then I'm going to type in 90 degrees, and this will rotate it horizontally 90 degrees. And then I'm going to drag my playhead out a little bit. I'm going to create another keyframe and set the Y rotation to 0, which, as you can see, creates this nice little kind of flipping animation of the logo. And while that does look nice, I do want to kind of speed it up a bit. And to do that, I'm going to actually select both of the keyframes. Right click and go to keyframe velocity and set the incoming velocity and outgoing velocity to 75% on both. And that kind of ramps up the speed as the animation goes on a little bit, so you can see it looks a lot cleaner this way. And I'm just going to keep on messing with the keyframes till I get a speed that I'm happy with. So this looks pretty good to me here. I'm actually going to add motion blur as well, so that the motion looks a little bit more natural. As you can see, as I drag the playhead, the motion blur, you can actually see it. It just makes it so that the logo is not super clear as it's actually in motion. Now the last thing I'm going to do is just mess with the opacity a little bit. So I'm going to start by adding a keyframe to the beginning of the timeline here and set the opacity to 0% and drag out my playhead and set it to 100% so that it's invisible and then becomes fully opaque towards the end of the animation. And that is about it. From here, you can just export your animation and use it in whatever video you'd like.